This message is brought to you by the Capital One Venture X card. Venture X offers the premium benefits you expect, like a $300 annual Capital One travel credit for less than you expect. Elevate your earn with unlimited double miles on every purchase, bringing you one step closer to your next dream destination. Plus, enjoy access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. The Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Hey there, fictional friends, and welcome to another episode of Fully Booked. I'm Megan.
And I'm Shirin.
It's May.
It's gonna be May.
Thank you. I was like, if you don't do the thing, it's been memes for an entire 3 or 4 days. Yeah. I think has just been every scroll that I'm doing. I'm like, oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one.
I sent it to my team at work. I thought I was very funny. I got a bunch of deadpan looks like it's been overly done. Stop it.
I think they're over it now, and which is understandable. I feel like I'm kind of like, really, we do this every year.
Every year.
Anyway, yes, it's officially May. I guess Star Wars fans will be happy, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh
yeah. So I would like to thank hopefully finally, it's the kickoff to spring.
Oh, for God's sakes, man. I was taking my coat and my boots out again yesterday. And
you're like,
if this weather doesnn't cheer up, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Canadians can probably understand what we're all experiencing right now. I think it's been pretty similar across the board, except you people in BC. I don't want to hear from you.
Do not talk to me.
And don't talk to me. Everybody else, though, will be like, oh, yeah, I know. It's a bit shit, isn't it?
The longest winter I think I've ever experienced.
It's pretty bad. I would just like it to settle now. So fingers crossed that we're on our way. And, at least this new release has given us kind of like a spring kickoff to a degree. Yes. There's something about like the rom-com-y style film, right? Like, like sort of like girly kind of like chick flick style film that really sets the tone for this time of year anyway. So that's nice. Hot take. I think I liked the fashions in this one better than in the first.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh,
they were so nice. In the first one, there were so many that I was like, what the fuck is that? But I hardly did. Yeah, but I hardly did that at all in this one. I was like, oh, this is great. Everybody looks fantastic. Anyway,
I loved everything that Anne Hathaway was wearing. I'm like,
the entire time
I was making notes. I'm like, where can I find one of those for work?
Genuinely, everything, particularly all the stuff that was just like her business casual at work. I was like,
I loved it.
I want all of this.
All of it. Yeah, you know what it is? It's because we're corporate girlies now.
I know.
That's what it is.
We work in a corporate environment, so we're like, oh, I would like to look that effortless when I'm going into the office and stuff, right? I mean, I feel like a lot of people kind of can feel that way too, right? You try to strike a balance, because I'm not somebody who's comfortable getting like extremely dressed up every day. I just don't have the fortitude for it. So that kind of in between, I really appreciate. But okay, so obviously, surprise, we're talking about The Devil Wears Prada 2 today. I can go into a little bit, I can give a little bit of background about the books and things, because I think a lot of people maybe aren't aware that these are based on books. Who knew? Because the film was so big, but it's kind of like just glossed over that the first film is based on a book and everything. And so I think that people have kind of forgotten that, but it turns out there's more than one book in the series as well.
How many are there?
So 3 in total that I came across per Goodreads. The first book was published in 2003. It had a follow-up, the second book, so Devil Wears Prada is the name of the first book. It was published in 2003. The second book, which is called Revenge Wears Prada, I believe was published in, I think it's 2013. Okay. And then there's a third kind of offshoot, but that still seems to fall into the category, published in 2018, called When Life Gives You Lululemons. And that book, from my understanding, specifically centers around Emily. Character. Yeah. So anyway, so that's kind of a brief overview of that. How about before we get into like more of like the detailed plot, how about we just maybe talk about some things, like maybe our expectations going into this, because this is such, for women our age, we're in our 30s. We grew up with films like this at this time in the early to mid 2000s. These are like iconic films that you rewatch every year. You have a ton of nostalgia for them, and there's just like a huge fan base for things like this that are also so easily digestible as well. Let's be real. So with that in mind, I think we can talk about maybe expectations, sort of general overarching, like kind of in general, how this one kicks off. And then we can get into the more spoilery bits and stuff. And I'll give everybody a warning ahead of time.
Sure.
All right. So that's it. So that's a little bit of brief background about the books. Do be aware, and we can talk about it when we get into more detailed plot. But the books and the films do differ from each other. My understanding is, particularly from what I was reading about the second one, very significantly.
Oh, right. Okay.
The first one as well, there do seem to be like fairly large differences in terms of like characterization of some people. Andy's character in the book seems to be much more kind of harsh and strong-willed to a degree. It almost it's so interesting. It almost makes it sound like she's a less likable character in the book, which is interesting. Her relationship with her boyfriend in the first film, which thank fuck Nate's not in the second movie, is
he was awful.
Yeah. You know what I really appreciated? So earlier in the week, I rewatched the first movie. It's been a bit since I've watched it. I rewatched it with Arthur earlier in the week, and unprompted during the movie, I did not say a word about it. I think halfway through, when some of the stuff was starting to happen with the strain on the relationship and him being happy that she was going to quit her job and stuff, he's sitting there watching the movie and he's just like, man, Nate's not a very good boyfriend, is he?
No,
and I was like,
he's not.
oh my God, thank God you said that. He was like, yeah, he was like, I get it. Like, you support your partner. But he was like, she's been saying how many doors this will open for her. Shouldn't you help encourage her to continue to work there? Like, not be like celebrating her quitting her job. He was really weird.
Oh yeah, I know. And it's funny because even in our household, my husband brings him up pretty regularly. Like every time
bad movie boyfriend.
Yeah, like every time I'm going through a stint of like, there's so much going on at work or something, and I'm like, oh, I'm not doing enough at home. He'll just be like, I'm not like Nate in the Devil Wears Prada. Like I know that there's an end game here. You know what I mean? And this has been years, so I think it's well known that Nate sucks.
Good. I've seen tons of it from women online, like over the years, that upon re-examination, everybody has been like, "Ew." Sorry if you can hear that in the background. My cat's decided that now is the time to zoom more than he's ever zoomed in his life.
Okay.
Simmer down. You're fine. He sees something out the window and he goes a little bit cuckoo nuts bananas. Anyway, so brief overview: we are returning to follow Andy Sachs, played by Anne Hathaway. 20 years after the events of the first film. I believe in book 2, it's actually 10 years after the events of the first novel. So that's just kind of like a slight difference, but it makes sense. They wanted to obviously keep it in turn, with how much time had actually gone by for them. They weren't going to do a decade when it's been 2. So she is working as a journalist for a paper. There are huge mass layoffs that are happening because there's a ton in this movie about the state of the publishing and publication industry in general that, does point out a lot of really excellent points about things and opens a lot of good dialogue, but also makes this movie real kind of depressing at some points. But anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, it is a reflection of what's going on, right?
Correct, yeah. So then this leads to her desperately searching for another job, and the owner of Elias Clark, essentially, or the CEO, I should say, of Elias Clark, which is the parent company of Runway, Irv Ravitz, who's not dead and is the same actor in this movie, which I was like, oh, damn, okay. It's the same person. Hires her to basically help rebuild Runway's reputation after a scandal and a pretty severe article has just been published about the magazine. So that's kind of brief overview. In terms of returning cast that we get, obviously Meryl Streep returns as Miranda Priestly. As I mentioned, Anne Hathaway.
Fantastic.
Oh my God, she looks incredible in this whole movie. I liked her fashions a lot in the first film. Same thing this time. So good. Yeah. Anne Hathaway's, of course, back as Andy Sachs, because Anne Hathaway hasn't aged a day, apparently. Lucky her. Emily Blunt has returned as Emily Charlton.
She also looks awesome.
Still funny. So funny.
Yeah.
I love her so much. Stanley Tucci has returned as Nigel Kipling's character. I don't think he had enough to do in this movie, but we'll talk about that a bit more later. And we did get a couple of, as I mentioned, that's it, like surprisingly returning people as well. Tracy Toms returns as Lily, who is Andy's best friend, who we did see in the first film as well. So I was like, oh, that's cool that we still get like a connection there. Lily is Andy's best friend in the books apparently as well. So that does make sense. As well as I mentioned, that's it. Irv Ravitz's character returns, which I was like, wow, Okay, I'm surprised. And we did get a couple of other small ones here and there. I noticed 1 or 2 Runway employees from the first film that are in this one
Oh,
that I was
really?
like, "Oh, shit." Yeah, like a couple of the editorial people
Oh,
who are in the meetings and stuff. I was looking at there was one man in particular, and I can't remember what the character's name is or anything, so I'd have to go looking for it, but I was like, "He was in the first movie," because I literally watched it a few days ago.
oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would not have noticed that.
No, that's it. So that was interesting. And then so they're joined by obviously a host of kind of like newer characters as well. So namely, obviously people like Simone Ashley, who joins, who's the new first assistant to Miranda's character. She plays Amari. Kenneth Branagh plays Miranda's current husband, Stuart. Also kind of a nothing character. What was the point of Kenneth Branagh doing that? I don't know. Lucy Liu has a cameo as a character named Sasha Barnes. We'll get into her later. And we also have Benji Barnes, played by Justin Theroux, who also shows up. Fucking annoying. Anyway.
Yeah, he is. Oh my God.
And then we got a couple of other people. There's Patrick Brammel, who plays the character of Peter. He's like an architect or a designer. I cannot remember what that is. Kind of also a nothing plot line, in my opinion. But anyway.
No, he was supposed to be, wasn't he supposed to be like the romance?
No, he was, but like
I know, went nowhere.
I didn't need it, did I? And then BJ Novak, who plays Irv's son as well.
That made me laugh. Though.
Which I was like, whoa. Who I will actually, you know what, I have got to give him kudos for being the most like tech bro-y fucking looking tech bro really with his puffer vest. I was like, dude, this is very well done.
He was, yeah.
As well as obviously a bunch of other people, of course, like a bunch of other characters that show up. And I mean, they had cameos in the first film. This one was like insane. The number of models, designers, everything. I will spoil and say I'm pretty sure people are aware of this though, but there's a special appearance by Lady Gaga in this movie. Like everybody's in this fucking film. I was like in like the first like 3 or 4, I don't know, maybe the first like 20 minutes, I was like, oh, there's Ashley Graham. Oh, there's Winnie Harlow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
But I mean, I think it's because the first one was so big. Like, you know, like, of course, for the sequel, everybody's going to want to get in on that. And also, like, Lady Gaga had a couple of songs for this one.
She did. Yeah, that's true. So she does perform a song, which is fun. I will say, hey, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. She looked great. She was in like her like Little Monsters era kind of get up. And I was like, oh, I love that because it gave a little bit of a throwback and I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
So that was really fun. So, okay, before we get into the spoiler stuff and like more serious plot points, what were your expectations kind of rolling into this as a sequel to something that was like this big when we were younger?
You know what? So I'll preface by saying that like this movie, the first one, was like it was like iconic in my life. Like,
oh, for sure.
You know, the whole scene of Andy getting to Runway, you know, her first day on the job, she's looking up at the buildings, you know, it's like a world of like opportunity open to her. I remember watching that as a kid because, you know, I would have been 2003, I would have been like 12 when this movie came out. And it's at a time in, you know, in our lives where, you know, you start getting asked, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember watching this movie and being like, I want that moment in my life. Like, I want that where, like, you know, you're like going and there's all this whole world of like stuff open to you. You're going into the big buildings and you got to make it, you know. And fast forward, you know, I can't remember what year it was, but when my husband and I moved to Toronto and I was going to, you know, the big building for the first time, and I walked out of the subway and I kind of had a moment where I was like, this is how Andy Sachs must have felt in The Devil Wears Prada. And I think I even posted about it in social media at the time, you know, like I was like, oh, I feel like Andy Sachs in The Devil Wears Prada, you know? And so like that has been like something that has been in the back of my mind most of my life, you know, most of my adult life. And so when I saw that there was a sequel coming out, I was kind of like,
is this necessary? No.
I was like, I feel like Andy had her time on screen and I didn't need more. I didn't need to. It almost felt like an invasion of like their lives, you know, like it's kind of like, I don't need to know more about it. Like I was happy with the way that it ended. I assume that she became successful. Because she got her sign off from Miranda, right? Like in the way of advocacy.
Yes.
And we saw that Miranda, although she was a backstabber and she put Nigel down, like that is essentially the message was that's what it takes to make it in this world. And that's how she did it. And that's why Andy wants nothing to do with it because that was the whole message of the first one, you know? So when I saw there was a sequel, I was like,
why the fuck are we going to do this again? Yeah.
Why? Like, there's nothing more I can get from this personally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
so
get it.
that was me. What about you?
Yeah, I think that, you know what? I was like, maybe this will be very fun and just like sort of like a fun nostalgia sort of dump of sorts. But most of it was me being like, I'm not sure that the sequel for this was necessary. And I mean, that's often the case. Let's be real. Sometimes, you know, some sequels turn out excellently. If not, they might be surpass their predecessor. It's rare, but it does happen on occasion. But this was definitely one that I was like, yeah, I feel like this is going to lean just heavily into the nostalgia and maybe not give me too much else to work with necessarily. And I think maybe to a degree I was right. But anyway, let's get into like the more like the more of the nitty gritty, more of maybe like a slightly more detailed plot and stuff like that, so we can kind of chat through some of this.
Let's do it.
Spoilers. So, as mentioned, that's it. This picks up 20 years after the events of the first film. Andy has been working as a fairly successful journalist for a paper, but of course, as we've seen, unfortunately, in newspaper and magazine publishing, with everything going digital and stuff, there are cutbacks and layoffs and things across the publication industry as a whole, unfortunately, and it's affecting a ton of different things. And so in the middle of winning an award, her, as well as many of her colleagues, receive a text that they've all been let go because they're downsizing.
Yeah. And we've seen this happen recently, not just in journalism, but in like the tech industry and stuff. Right? There's been a lot in the news about this. Yeah.
Mass layoffs at places as large as like KPMG. Like, these are just things that we're seeing a lot in the industry more recently. So anyway, so obviously she is in the middle of winning this award, so she gets some recognition because she makes a pretty impassioned speech about journalism and how it still matters. And that catches the attention of people online, including, as I mentioned previously, Irv Ravitz, who is dealing with the fallout now from an article that was just leaked about Runway and what is it? I think it's sweatshops basically being used for like the fast fashion-y types of things, and Runway being a part of that because of some of the brands that they work with, etc. So there's a hit piece essentially that's published, and everyone is scrambling to try and rewrite the narrative. Yeah. And so when Irv comes across this, it's actually his son, it's BJ Novak's character, that points this out. He's just like, hey, you know, if we get somebody who has like journalistic integrity, sorry, it's Jay Ravitz is his name, who has journalistic integrity, maybe we can turn this around a little bit. So Irv calls Andy and hires her immediately. Is just like, hey, come work for us and come be the features editor and come fix this shit. So, so of course, obviously she returns to the publication. Yes, it's awkward because Miranda is resentful because she did not have any say in Andy's being rehired for this purpose. And she's trying to save face. But this also is where I almost from the jump started to see really odd things. And I don't know if you agree with this, but Arthur was actually in agreement with me about this too. He came to see the movie with me yesterday, that he was like, you know, it's really weird because you watch that first movie and Miranda is this like iconic, strong, nothing bothers me character. And he was like, just to see her immediately kowtow to everybody around her, he was like, it was such a weird character shift. And he was like, I know it's been 20 years and I understand that like this is true. Advertisers are the ones in charge now. Like that is how it works. But he was like, it's such a weird juxtaposition that it's just like very strange to watch her act like this from the jump. And I agree. I was sitting there being like, you know, I almost would have expected to see her act the way she acted in the first film. And then behind closed doors be going through what she was going through.
I agree. And like, I was actually texting you about this when I was watching. I found that the character development / lack thereof in other characters was like annoying to say the least. So with Miranda, I felt like they were trying to do this like character development of showing like she's been a hard ass for 30, 40 years in the industry. And like, so the other thing is that there was like this dichotomy going on the screen between, you know, we fast forwarded 20 years. There's been a bit of a shift in perception on work-life balance, for example. And also holding leaders to a higher accountability, especially in large organizations. But I was watching it play out on screen, and they were just failing miserably in every direction.
Because they tried to shoe that in, didn't they, with having Amari be like, you can't say stuff like that. You can't say stuff like that. And it's like, okay, it's cute for a minute, but I'm like, but you can't just do it like that and have that be like, oh, this is what's happened now.
Better here, like, because then they're showing like, so Amari making those little comments. Miranda now hanging up her own coat because of HR complaints that have come through over the years. And like Andy's like, oh, I guess some things have changed around here.
But also you have 2 assistants. I feel like one of them's going to hang up your fucking coat. Like, let's be real.
100%. But then there was also exactly what you just mentioned about Miranda kind of, I think, was she supposed to be softening in her old age, or was she supposed to be like looking tired because she's ready to pass the baton on?
I kind of didn't want that, but again, that didn't make sense because then there's all the talk about Irv promoting her to global head of content. So that's an even bigger job. So I'm like, okay, so this isn't about Miranda retiring.
No,
it was the writing in this felt like it couldn't make up its mind about where it wanted to go. I should mention, and again, like none of the filmmakers care what I have to say about this. I will actually say the film is directed by David Frankel, who directed the first film as well, and it is written by the original writer as well, Aline Brosh McKenna, who also wrote the screenplay for the first movie.
But I think that they were faced with the challenge of trying to portray a work-life balance, but also that this isn't the type of industry. Like even Andy, he was working late and stuff, and I was watching it thinking, I wonder what the younger generations feel about this now that they're watching it on screen. Because 20 years ago, that was one thing. But now, like, we're watching her, chugging coffee and, like, all sorts of things, trying to stay awake. And not to say that I haven't, been in this type of situation myself.
Oh, for sure.
With all the new mentality around, like, work-life balance and, like, the younger like Gen Z. And I don't know how true this is because it's all stereotypes. But it's like, oh, Gen Z doesn't want to be working in these environments. And, like, the younger generations aren't going to do this. And so I'm just like, it was just interesting to watch on screen because I'm like, y'all don't know which direction to go with this, do you?
Yeah, like they couldn't make up their minds about, it's almost like it was a little bit toothless because they couldn't make up their minds about insulting one particular generation of people. Like they were just kind of like, oh, we're going to be nice to everybody. And I was like, so they've taken away any kind of like the really intense, strong-willed aspects of the boomer character, like Miranda's character, and then the like Gen X into millennials, they've made them also like unsure about everything in their own lives. And then the Gen Z characters, they also kind of give no personality in the film. Simone Ashley was like severely underused in this. I was like, she's so incredible. You could have given her so much more to do. And even the other assistant, Chris. In the chair. He
was awesome.
He was so cute. He was adorable. And I was like, I could have seen more of him and been okay with that.
I wanted more of the assistants.
And I also was it was better for the rest of the movie, but the intro scene with Jin Chao, who is Andy's assistant, I was like, oh, this feels stereotyped in a way that makes me a little uncomfortable. When she starts like spouting off like her GPA and stuff, I was like, stop doing that. It was weird. That was really uncomfortable. She was like, they made her like more normal for the rest of the film, but I was like, you don't have to Asian stereotype her just because she's there to be like Andy's assistant. That was really strange.
I would have actually preferred that they'd gone in the complete opposite direction with her character, and then she and Andy bond over the fact that they're both not like, super stressed out all the time or something. Go with the flow and stuff.
Exactly. Or I feel like we just got that. Didn't we just get that with season 2 of The Pit?
Yes.
She's just on her phone all the time, and it made me laugh so much. I thought she was hilarious.
Yeah, exactly.
Joy there, because she's just very funny because she then also is like obviously very aware of what's going on and very intelligent. You don't get into medical school without being so. And she basically has, photographic memories aren't really a thing. I don't know why they did that, but she basically has like, she remembers like a ton of stuff when she looks at it.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, that's why she's fucking bored all the time is what it is.
No,
because
she was a great character.
I loved her. I thought she was so funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I feel like they just did that. So then seeing this, I was like that. It was just for that first scene, but it was a little bit jarring. And I was like, oh, that was a weird choice to make, guys. And I don't think that was very smart of you. But anyway, so seeing more from those characters and not having them be so one note maybe would have helped to round things out a little bit too. But I guess they were just too focused on like the plot with like those sort of like the major characters and what was going on with them.
Yeah, I guess so. I think that if I were to pinpoint what I loved so much about the original movie was the characters and like the way that they interacted and like how it kind of forced you to And I was thinking about this when I was watching this one, because there were a couple of moments, and I'm going to say also, preface by saying, I felt that this was an exact copy paste of the first one.
It was.
Same plot, the same.
Andy has to prove herself again.
Yeah,
exactly.
And yeah, I know. Like, I know. Same, like, Nigel being like, "Oh, poor you, poor little girl." Remember that whole monologue that he had about, like, in the first one, like,
which in the first one has an impact, and you're like, yes, correct. Like, it makes sense what he's saying, and I understand where it's coming from. Yeah. But in this one, again, that's it. After another 20 years and another 20 years of staying in the same place for him too, you're just kind of like, again, Nigel gets no development. None in any capacity. And I'm like, okay.
But also, like, Andy's had this like 20-year successful career, and she's right back to being that little girl assistant again when you're seeing her on
and trying to get validation from Miranda, and you're like,
and like, no wonder Miranda's not giving it to her, because she's like, girl, you've been 20 years in your career. What do you want from me? I already gave you my nod of approval by advocating for you when you left Runway the first time.
Yeah. And also that, and again, it doesn't really, I guess it doesn't track as well, because this version of Miranda that's a lot more wishy-washy, you wouldn't be seeking her approval. Now you just kind of be like, wow, what the hell happened to her?
Yeah. And again, if you've been 20 years in the industry, you'd be like, wow, what happened to her? I don't need her nod of approval, because I've already made it by myself. This woman is no one to me, even if she is now my, like, whatever boss, let's say.
Yeah.
It would be like water off a duck's back for her.
Agreed. Exactly. Afterwards, that's it. After all of this happens, obviously, Andy starts slowly rebuilding the reputation that Runway has, but obviously also keeping in mind that a lot of what she's trying to do isn't necessarily going to appeal to the mass public with regards to the features that she is putting together. And so with that in mind, obviously things are still struggling. And so there's like a Hail Mary, basically, in which she's able to get a profile from this woman named Sasha Barnes, who is a very, very famous divorcee billionaire and seems to be very elusive and very difficult to get an interview with. And he's able to secure one with her for Runway. It's a huge deal, and it starts obviously turning things around for the magazine as a whole. With all of this, we have, like, reuniting with characters like Emily, who is currently working at Dior. What is she doing at Dior now? I don't even know what her job is.
It looks like she's like in charge of advertising or something, maybe, because I think the whole discussion is that they want, like, 5 pages of
like a spread or something for a piece.
But I could be wrong, but I got the feeling it was something to do with advertising.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Maybe she's their head of marketing or something. I have no idea. Anyway, or like PR. I don't know, because she's also helping. She's also helping to set up the new flagship store that they're opening. So I was trying to figure out what that has to do with anything. Anyway, whatever. She comes back into the picture as well. And, her and Andy, I didn't mind, like, the sort of new kind of relationship that her and Andy are able to have with each other. That one I was fine with. I thought that was fine. But it was more just like, it was too much back and forth with everybody being like, I'm struggling. I don't know what to do. And I was like, we did this 2 decades ago already. We already did it.
Yeah.
So that part was less fun. Anyway, eventually, obviously, what winds up happening, again, we're in the spoilery bit, but just so you know, that's it. At his 75th birthday, Irv dies. He collapses and dies very dramatically.
Dies.
Yeah. There's no other way of saying it. He does die very dramatically. And so, of course, Jay, his son, is taking over pretty much all of Elias Clark. And you can tell he's not particularly, like, artist minded or anything. He's he's a numbers guy. He's a very, like, finance bro type of energy.
I think he thinks he's a finance bro. I think he's just, billionaire's kid. I would love to be a billionaire's kid. Can you imagine?
Well, what's that like? I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. I'd be a terrible person, I guess, because they all seem to be. So
we'd just be holed up with books somewhere.
Yeah, I guess that's possible. I don't know. I'd be a different person, I feel, which is, makes me uncomfortable. So yeah. Anyway, so obviously, there's a lot of uncertainty happening, and what winds up coming to fruition over time is that the Sasha Barnes' ex-husband, Benji, the most annoying man in the world who won't stop smiling, is obviously also, like, a billionaire and has made a ton of money from his divorce from Sasha, who definitely seems to have been the one who made all of the money. Like, she was the brains in that marriage. And she did that. Well, she did that thing that women unfortunately do a lot of the time, which is, build a man up and then he leaves her as soon as he's slightly better. than he used to be. He is currently dating Emily, which I was like, oh, girly pop, don't do that. Yeah, he's dating Emily, and what it turns out is going on, Andy is under the impression that her and Emily are working together to save Runway. However, in doing what they're doing, which is having Benji buy Elias Clark, well, not Elias Clark, but buy Runway, I should say, from Jay, it's to give to Emily to run. So she's sort of like doing the backstabby thing. But again, it all kind of, I don't know what it was. It all kind of felt really wishy-washy the way it was happening.
And like, especially since Miranda knew what was happening, like she was way ahead of it. It just didn't, it felt like a cheaper spin-off of the original, like where they were just trying to recreate
pretty much
the same dynamics. And I was disappointed with the Emily plot line there, with her being the backstabby one, because I was like,
I wanted that character to, and I know, Emily. And they turn it around. Yeah, like they turn it around before the end. You know, she does have a bit of a redemption, and her and Andy are maybe able to actually be friends, which is lovely. That's nice. But it just goes through this whole weird thing to get there. And there's, so basically the way that Miranda and Andy fix the situation is that they convince Sasha to just buy Elias Clark completely, which she does. And she gives them basically full creative control of Runway, which is wonderful. That's great. And that's like a lovely turnaround for them. But then there's a really bizarre scene in the car where they're talking at the end, and they're just kind of, and Miranda says something to the effect of, we basically have to work together now. And I was like, this is really weird. Is this supposed to be like sequel bait in some capacity? But it also didn't feel like it was. It was weird.
It was strange. And this whole, like, you know, like that line being like, oh, now we get to live happily ever after together. I'm like, that's not how it was supposed to end. Like, it was supposed to end the way that it ended before, with Andy realizing that her core values as a person were bigger than, exactly, that were more important to her than like selling out for the corporate life, which, you know, I ain't judging anybody on selling out for the corporate life.
No. It's not about that, but it's true that it kind of diverges really, really strongly from that original film.
It felt like all the growth she had as a character in the first one went out the window in this one. I felt that she acted like Andy exactly the same way that Andy was portrayed in the first one, with a bit of a hesitation before she said anything. Obsessing over every interaction, like it didn't make sense.
No.
And the one thing that I do want to talk about also is at the ending there, where Nigel kind of gets brought into the spotlight by Miranda after Andy points out that
he should have been given more responsibility, and this is stupid. Yes, correct. Yeah.
I hated that scene. I absolutely hated it, because I was expecting her to say something and Miranda whip around and be like, what, you think I don't know what I've been doing for the last, 40 years, 30 years to this man? Like, I've been doing it because of XYZ. You don't have the experience in this industry. You don't understand. The reason why I'm doing this is to build him up and blah, blah, blah. Like, I was expecting her to have a response. Instead, she was like, oh, crap. Yeah, you're right. Oops. I guess I haven't been. And I was like, okay, that is hella disrespectful to Nigel.
Yeah.
Because in the last movie, he was like, she will pay me back. I will get my day. She knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
Like, I have full faith in her. And so by Andy, like, coming in and basically trampling his voice in this situation, it was like the equivalent of if a woman had done this to another woman for 30 years, and then a man came in and was like, hey, Miranda, why are you being such a bitch to the other woman? And Miranda went, oh my God, you're right. I have been a bitch. And we would have all been collectively enraged, because we would have been like, what? So it took the man's voice to make her realize that she was a bitch to the woman? They couldn't have worked it out together. To me, this is the same situation.
I think that your version of things would have been much better when then, after they are able to fix the situation, Sasha buys Elias Clark, and that way Miranda can step into her role as global head of content, to then have a scene at that point where, after she had said to Andy, like, leave this alone, I know exactly what I'm fucking doing, turned around and been like, yes, this is what I was waiting for, because now I am making Nigel like the head of the magazine, or whatever Miranda's current fucking like sort of editor-in-chief, which was the current role that she was in. I kind of thought that that's where it was going to go, but we don't see Nigel get anything new. And I'm like, no,
It was absolutely ridiculous.
And then on top of that, we also we're like, Jesus Christ, so he doesn't even get anything new. And it turns out that he's the reason that all of this happened for Andy in the first place. He is the one who sent the messages to Jay to be like, hey, take a look at this. This girl's, she's good. We should probably look into that.
Yeah. And I really hate what they did to Nigel's character. Yeah. I really do, because, it goes back to, the broader dialogue of like, kind of just thinking about like those who are in power versus those who are there in support of those in power. And the reason why things are set up in a specific way is because of biases and societal norms and stuff. And, based on what Nigel said in the first movie of his, sexual orientation and stuff and where he came from, it just enraged me so much, this whole thing, that I was like that, I was already kind of, kind of whatever about it. But that like threw me off completely. And I'm like, no, there's been forget character development. I think we need writer development in this situation. Like,
there was a lot of weird sort of open-endedness that we kind of wound up with. It just felt very different because they gave Andy the serious journalist mindset, and then they immediately had her kind of flip gears. And the whole thing just felt, I don't know, the whole thing felt like kind of oddly put together just to make the movie work. And they shoehorned in, that's at a lot of the ending portion of things to sort of see, how can we kind of make this work and what can we do? I don't know. It was very odd. So very oddly, a lot of this also, I will say, this second movie in particular diverges completely from the book that it's based on. So in the second book, Andy's actually married. She's a mother. She is a successful editor of a bridal magazine.
Oh, wow.
With Emily. They are partners.
Oh.
And so that
would have been good.
Yeah, that's it. And a lot more of what that book focuses on apparently is that, she has to get back into, basically Andy has to come back to like working with Miranda on something to help, because Miranda tries to, because Miranda's still a bitch in the book, she tries to buy the magazine. Like she tries to take it away from Andy and from Emily. So Andy has to like fight against her, and she's dealing with basically like the trauma that she had from working with her in the first place. And apparently it deals a lot more with like the PTSD like symptoms that she's experiencing from that.
That would make a lot more sense to me as a sequel.
Yeah. I think that would have been maybe more logical, because at least she would have still been working like vaguely in the fashion industry to a degree for a bridal magazine, like within that space, but she was doing things that were completely different, which makes sense because they were established in the first movie that that's what she was headed towards. So again, having this flip back is a little bit like, what? I don't know.
Like, look, so now that you've explained that, I would not have seen her as an editor for a bridal magazine, but then if she was doing it with Emily, like maybe there was something in there for her, like it could have been spun a different way.
Sure.
I don't hate how they set this one up in terms of like, her having a 20-year career, getting fired because of all the things happening. Like I appreciated the social commentary from there. And then, getting the job, like that all made sense to me. It was her behavior and her like lack of confidence and just reverting back to like Andy as an assistant basically, and like really seeking that stamp of approval from Miranda, that I was like, this is a woman who's got nothing left to like fire at you, girl. Like you should be going in there with your head held high. But
Agreed. Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, so shall we wrap things up with like let's say strengths and weaknesses on both ends of things? Okay, go for it.
Okay, strengths, the clothes. I'm not gonna lie. The fashion, did I come back for a bit more Prada? Maybe I did, I loved the fashions. I loved everything Andy was wearing from a business casual standpoint. I think we mentioned this already.
Miranda looked incredible.
Stunning. All the, when they do the rating of the closet there, and he's like, oh, and then here's like the mini Birkin, and he gives her a mini Himalayan Birkin, and I'm like, no, you can't just hand that over.
This is what you're here for, because I'm just like, I don't know what any of that is. I'm like, it's nice, but I have no fucking idea what it is.
God. So. I was like all over the clothes, like, so I could talk about the clothes and the clothes and the clothes. There were a couple of funny moments with the assistants, I guess. I enjoyed seeing Emily again. This is not a fish market, Nigel.
Oh my God, she was so funny.
Yeah.
She was still, I forgot how funny she was in the first one until I rewatched it the other day. And then seeing this one too, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad she got to do it again in this one. She had a lot of like great lines, like a lot of great moments, which I really, really loved.
Yeah.
Another person who I thought looked incredible for the entire film was Simone Ashley as well.
Oh, she looked awesome.
Fucking good. And the whole montage that we got of them in Milan when they go to Italy, every single outfit she had on, I was like, oh, she looks beautiful. I think it's just hard to make her look bad.
Oh, she's just stunning as a human being.
Yeah, I think that might be what it is. And I keep saying it every time there's a new season of Bridgerton. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Oh, she's beautiful.
Just look at her. So maybe that has something to do.
I think so. So the clothes and the funny moments, that was fun. And then weaknesses, I think it's everything that we said, lack of character development. I was really disappointed in how they portrayed Andy. I really was, because, again, as somebody who's like in that corporate, career and like working through it, you'd hope that eventually you'd stop feeling like you're on freaking training wheels and have a voice. But like to see it splashed out on screen like this, you're kind of like, I don't like that,
Yeah, no, that's
like
fair.
that.
That's fair. I think that's completely understandable. Yeah, I think strengths much in the same way. The visuals just in general of the film, obviously the fashion, of course, but, in general, the cinematography, everything like that, you do feel like you're within the world that it exists in, which I can really appreciate. Overall, the chemistry between the cast is still good in spite of the weaknesses of character development and everything like that. So I appreciated that a lot. I thought that was great. I wish there had been more iconic Miranda moments, but we almost got none. So that's unfortunate. But the moments between Andy and Emily, I thought were really strong. And Emily Blunt, I think, still really carried a lot of what she was doing, which was very funny. And I really appreciated that aspect of things. And then, yes, weaknesses, same thing. Really sort of muddled plot that didn't really follow like the original sort of train of the first film. Lack of character development and making your iconic character from this franchise as wishy-washy as she is from the jump really took me out of a lot of the enjoyment I think that I would have had from it. I would have preferred more of an internal struggle, more of a behind the closed doors struggle from the character that maybe we would have started to see gradually throughout the course of the film, but seeing it almost from the jump really kind of ruined a lot of that from me. And it also made it so that she has no like iconic lines, iconic moments.
Yeah.
And there are so many in the original film. And I'm like, she won like a Golden Globe for the movie. Like you'd think that you would have tried to give her more to kind of do in this one. But unfortunately, no, they really swayed that character, I think, a little bit too much. And I didn't love that at all.
I think we got a that's all from her once in this movie. And I'm like, so you're just...
And it was just for nostalgia. Like it was, that's it. And there were don't even get me wrong, there were like a few of those where even right at the beginning of the film, we see some guy holding up 2 fucking cerulean belts when he's at like a market and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, okay, wait.
And in the final scene, I don't know if you noticed, Andy's wearing a cerulean vest.
Yes. Because it's supposed to be, like a callback to all of that. And that's fine. It's funny. Like it's cute. And so some of those callbacks were good, but yeah, I think for me, if anything, like Andy, I was just kind of like, okay, fine about. I think I was more disappointed in Miranda and in lack of development for Nigel.
Yeah. I think the 3 characters together, like it was like a trifecta of like disappointing development.
Exactly. I agree. So that was unfortunate. But listen, obviously, I don't know where it's on track for right now in terms of box office. It's sitting at 115 million right now. Budget was 100 million. So I'm sure that in the next couple of weeks, it'll probably double itself. And look, overall, in terms of ratings, it's doing pretty well. It's currently, at the time that we're recording this, sitting at a 6.9 on IMDb. Critics score on Rotten Tomatoes is 77%, and the audience score is at 87%. So listen, like people are enjoying it for what it is, I think.
Yeah, like I think it goes back to what you said. It's a throwback.
Because we're sitting down to record it for
that's the problem. If I weren't picking it apart because I was like watching it knowing that I had to talk about it, then I don't think I'd care. Like it's like when we watched Wuthering Heights, that one I went in and I just watched it kind of for the sake of watching it, and you were like, here are all the reasons why I hate it, and I'm like, oh great, now I hate it. But like this one, I think if I were just watching it for the sake of watching it, it would have just been a whatever. I don't think I honestly don't think I would have remembered what the plot was if I had just watched it for the sake of watching it. I would have been like, yeah,
which is
happened.
a bad sign probably, but you kind of would have just been like vaguely disappointed with it probably, and not maybe not paying attention to as many of these things that you were like, why is this so different? This does not make sense.
Is it, you know? Yeah. But I can, like, when you mentioned that earlier, like, okay, it's one of those movies that we watched over and over again. I'm like, yeah, that and like 13 going on 30, for example.
Yeah, like 13 going on 30, Legally Blonde, like all of these ones were ones that were just, these were just films that were, you watch, like Mean Girls, obviously, like, you know, things that you watched over and over and over and over again because they were just like what was big at the time. Now, I appreciated obviously that we did get a little bit of a clarity, obviously, in this one that we're not talking about people being like fat or anything.
Yeah, at least.
Course.
Yeah.
Because man, that was jarring. Rewatching the movie the other day, I was just kind of like, "Oh Jesus Christ, I forgot that we were talking about this so much."
She's like, "Oh, do you remember me? I was your assistant,
the smart fat girl."
One. Yeah, the smart fat girl, and I'm like.
Because it's a line that Miranda has in the first film is like, you know, she's like, oh, I told myself to do something different and hire the smart fat girl. And you're like, ew.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, she's a size 8 in the first one.
6.
Size 8.
No, 6. Because he calls her 6.
That's right. She's a size 6 in couture.
Yes.
Which is like a size 2 everywhere else.
Pretty much.
Understand. Like,
pretty much. So. Also, we've all seen Anne Hathaway, right? We're all. Anyway,
the number of times that they put this woman in a movie where she was supposed to be the ugly one.
Oh my God, I can't deal with it. Like,
it's only happened twice, but that's way too many times.
It's so, you know, it's so funny too, because I had kind of not thought about it so much at the time, but this is just like a funny little thing, right? At the beginning of the Devil Wears Prada, you know, you're kind of like, okay, well, obviously Meryl Streep is the big draw in the first movie because she was such a huge name and had been for years at the time that this movie came out. But oddly, I'm like, oh, you know what, though? We would have gotten a pretty big draw even at that time from Anne Hathaway herself. She'd already done 2 Princess Diaries movies at this point. And the year prior, she had been in Brokeback Mountain, which was hugely lauded and was nominated for a bazillion different awards. So, like, honestly, she would have been riding pretty high. So if anything, I think this for me was my first major introduction to Emily Blunt. I had not really seen her in anything prior to this. This for me was her launch into like the stratosphere because she was an iconic character in the film.
She was, no, you're right, because Emily Blunt was not really well known at that, for me anyway. It was like the first time.
No, that's it. That's it, that she'd moved, I think, into more like major productions, particularly in North America, probably. So so I think for this was probably one of her more major first Hollywood films. So I think this was what kind of launched her a lot. Most of the rest of the cast, I'm like, oh shoot, that's right, they'd actually been like doing things, and so Anne Hathaway would have been a familiar face by the time this came out. Princess Diaries was so big.
Especially for our age group.
Again, for our generation, it was huge. So so I'm like, hey, wow, that's a really odd thought, but I hadn't even considered. Anywho, I think, if you're looking at it from surface level, this was a perfectly fine sequel. It was a very 2-y sort of movie to a degree, but once you scratch the surface a little bit, you're sort of like, oh, this is disappointing. And it's sloppily put together, which I didn't love. So,
but the clothes were great.
Beautiful, wonderful, all the different stuff. I even appreciated like that funny little moment with Emily and Donatella Versace where she's just like yelling at her to sit. Like she's like, shut the fuck up, basically. I'll sit down in a minute. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay.
Okay.
Arthur had a whole moment because he knows nothing about this stuff. He sees them and I'm like, oh boy, okay, because they're like having coffee and he's like, who is that? I'm like, it's Donatella Versace. She's incredibly recognizable.
Very much so. Very much.
So anyway, okay, not bad, disappointing, but listen, it is what it is. It's fine. Anyway, look, we're headed towards some other stuff this month, so I think we're going to get like quite a few other things too. Margot's Got Money Troubles ends before the end of this month, so we'll be doing a wrap up about that, which will be really fun. And as I mentioned, I think in our previous episode, May 13th, Off Campus drops on Prime, and that's going to be Cuckoo Nuts Bananas, and we're going to do a full one as soon as is humanly possible for that series, because I know it's a huge one and a lot of people are looking forward to it. As somebody who's read a bunch of Elle Kennedy, including this entire series, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this goes. I'm really curious about it. I think it's going to be fun.
I'm going in blind because I know nothing about it.
I know. It's fine. That's what I'm here for this time. So see, that's what we do. We trade off on a lot of these things.
Yeah, because I'm not on social media, so I don't know what's popular. And I just pick things up. Like, I'm like, hey, Meaghan, I picked up this book. Have you heard of it? She's like, yeah, it's been all over the place for like the last year.
For like 6 months. But yeah, sure.
Share screen. Great. You go read that.
This is what we do because my recording partner is a boomer.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, so listen, stay tuned for all of that. We're going to have a couple of other topics and things coming your way as well for the rest of the month. Check out all of it. I'm going to be having more things popping up to kind of give you an indication over on our socials at Fully Booked CA. And obviously, always, as usual, feel free to check out the website at fullybooked.ca. I'm getting a bunch of arcs and things that are coming in for the summer months. So that's great and wonderful. And there's like a lot of stuff coming up. There's going to be a lot to talk about and a lot of like new reviews and things coming your way on the site, which will be great. And a few other maybe more deep dive topics, I think, is stuff that we want to focus on more than anything else. And stuff lists you can find everywhere, but features and more maybe topic heavy and types of articles or kinds of things that we want to lean towards. So that's something that we're working on too. So just, hey, feel free to come along and pay attention to all of that if you would like to. But in the meantime, guys, keep on reading.
Thanks, everyone.
This message is brought to you by the Capital One Venture X card. Venture X offers the premium benefits you expect, like a $300 annual Capital One travel credit for less than you expect. Elevate your earn with unlimited double miles on every purchase, bringing you one step closer to your next dream destination. Plus, enjoy access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. The Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.